All right. Well, welcome everyone. Janice and I are so excited you've joined us tonight for this live workshop, Three Keys to Feeling Good About Your Athlete's Playing Time. Our hope for you today is that after our 30 minutes or so together, that you'll walk away with some practical tips and ideas for you and for your athlete. So first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out to be with us, because Janice and I are both sports moms, busy sports moms, and we know how important and how valuable your time is. 30 minutes out of your day is a lot when you're doing all the things you're doing. So we just really appreciate you carving out this 30 minutes to spend time with us. And so we are going to honor your time and get right started here. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Beth Jessup, and I am the founder of Sports Moms United. I'm a former Division II basketball player. I played at Washburn University in Topeka, Kansas, and I'm a current sports mom to Bo, who is 8. He is my baseball player and basketball player, and Avery, my daughter, who is 11, and she is my dancer. And I am really a sports mom on a mission to serve and support other sports moms with all the resources that they need to raise a nutritionally fit, physically fit, and mentally fit athlete. And I am so grateful and honored to co-host this workshop with Janice, who is also a sports mom on a mission to support sports parents. She's been in this space for a while now and is an absolute expert with sports parenting. And so I'm going to turn it over to Janice and give her an opportunity to introduce herself to you guys.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to us and spending some time, just spending a little bit of time with Beth and myself. Beth and I are both sports moms, but we're kind of at different ends of the spectrum. My kids are all old. When I say old, they're 24, 27, and 30 now. But I was a sports mom for 22 years, and my husband also coached for 29 years. And so, and then my 3 kids played all the way from the time they were little, around 4 years old, through college. So I've actually been coaching sports parents around the world for about 7 years. And I really focus in helping busy sports moms who often feel stressed with the drama and all the demands of being a sports mom. So I'm going to get started on the 3 keys that we want to share with you today. And the first key is let them fight their own battles. Now, I know that when our kids are small, we as parents are there to love and guide and protect them. And, you know, it's our job. It's our parental instinct. And we have this urge to keep our kids from harm and hurt. And this is a good thing for us to do because this is our job. We're parents. But it's only a good thing for us to do for a while. Because as our kids grow, we want to give them more responsibility, more privileges. You know, they learn to drive. They start doing their own laundry. They keep up with their homework. And we proudly watch them grow up, even though, you know, we're thinking all this time, well, we're letting them go. You know, there's still that little apron string though, that we tend to hang on to. And, you know, in an effort to continue protecting, we don't let them fight their own battles. So if you've hung around any sports competition or anything, you will see this apron string securely knotted. And parents have a really hard time, especially in youth sports. It just seems to really come through even more. Whether it's a fight for playing time, a conflict with a coach, or dealing with a trash-talking teammate. Parents, you know, we feel like we have to step in and do battle, and not really understanding and understanding that a lot of this times when we do this, we're actually hurting our kids more than we're helping them. And we may think we're doing them favors, but we're really not doing them any favors when we start getting into the habit of fighting their battles for them. As a matter of fact, it kind of goes the opposite. We tend to stand in the way of their growing and especially growing in mental toughness when we do step in. And I understand that the problem is that we want to fix things for our kids. I was reminded of this once when I was watching an old classic TV channel, and if y'all remember, you maybe you don't, the old show Bewitched with Samantha. She used to twinkle her nose and she would make magic happen. And so this particular episode, she wanted to help a neighbor boy, Marshall, in his Little League game. And so she sat in the stands with her husband and watched. And Marshall got up to bat, and he got struck at the first pitch. And Samantha was just itching to use her magic to help him. Like, she just wanted to twinkle her nose and help him hit a home run. So after the first strike, she was ready to interfere. And her husband said, "Sam, you've got to let him work this out by himself." So to distract her, he grabbed her and kissed her so that she wouldn't twitch her nose again. And lo and behold, while she was preoccupied, Marshall hit it in the park home run all by himself. And as I watched this, I thought, isn't it amazing what our kids can do when we don't interfere? You know, when we don't step in to work our parental magic, when we don't try to save them and make their path smooth and straight and fix things for them. Isn't it amazing what our kids can do? And I believe me, if I'd have been Samantha, if I'd have had that power over the past 22 years of sports parenting to twinkle my nose from the bleachers, I probably would have done it a lot, because there was a lot of times when I would have wanted to step in and help my kids and help them with their battles. But if I'd have done that, where would my kids be now? You know, the lessons they would not have learned if I had done that. So unless your child is an unsafe, abusive, or degrading situation, then interfering is not something that's going to help them grow strong. And I'll admit, yeah, we actually did send a few emails and have a few conversations, but the thing is, our kids never wanted us to do it. And we quickly learned to stop because of that. They didn't want to be that kid whose parents went to the coach and complained. You know, no kid wants to be that kid. So the first step in helping them learn to fight their own battles is to be a good listener. In fact, I would say that you should listen more than you speak, and listen without parental judgment. Second step would be to help them know how to confront. I'm still on key one.
Oh,
but that's okay. You can leave it. The second step is to teach them how to confront when it's needed. In other words, you know, you could do role models with them to teach them how to talk to their coach. You could go with them to the coach and still let them do all the talking. But the important thing is that they do the talking. You know, let's give a for instance. Let's say your child is complaining about their playing time. Instead of going to the coach and saying, "How come I'm not playing more?" Or, you know, "I'm better than so-and-so, I should be playing." A better way to do that would be to say, "Coach, what do I have to do to get on your radar?" Or, you know, "Coach, what do I need to do to get in the game more?" So because you see, this approach puts the responsibility on the athlete to improve and to fight for his time, and doesn't sound like you're accusing the coach of something. And then lastly, help your child to understand that the fight may be a long one. You know, kids want to have everything now, including immediate victory and resolution to their problems. But quite honestly, some battles that your kid is going to fight cannot be won overnight. And some of them could be season long. I mean, even longer than that. When my son was discouraged about his playing time or his performance, we told him to keep fighting and working hard. And, you know, I'd like to say that we told all of our kids this. I'd like to say that their persistence was always rewarded, but unfortunately, not all seasons have happy endings. And, I saw my son win the quarterback spot in his junior varsity season. And then when he went to play varsity, he was backup the entire season and until his senior year. So he spent a whole season fighting for it. And then when he got to be a senior, he had to fight for it again, but he did get it. So that was a season-long battle. And it's something that, your kids have to realize that sometimes it just takes time. As you let your kids learn to fight their own battle, they will learn lessons that will make them mentally tough in sports and will prepare them for the battles of life ahead. So don't make your kid be that kid whose parents are always complaining to the coach. In fact, they will feel more confident when they can handle it themselves. So the second key, as you see up there, is that your child's success must be earned. I use success here as another word for your child's goals in the game. What are those goals? Are they playing time? Is it a certain position they want to play? Kids who have things handed to them do not develop the deep character and strength that kids that have to fight for it do. I had a friend tell me this when my son was fighting for something, and I'm like, it wasn't a big consolation at the time, but it did resonate with me, because I realized that as I watched all three of my kids to fight for their playing time, because it was never assumed or handed to them, even though my husband was sometimes coaching on their team, still they had to earn it. They had to fight for it. And there's a lot of ways to earn success. And at the end, I'll share with you a free resource I have for you that will help give your child some ideas of how to battle off of the bench. But here's just a few of the little things. And these tips are not magic pills, and they're not groundbreaking necessarily, but it's important to remember that the little things that your child does add up. And it is about the little things. The little things, for instance, being on time to practices and games, not complaining about hard work. No one likes to do exercise and do liners and do burpees and all those other fun things, but no one likes the drills, but doing them without whining. Or do what the coach tells you to do in games and practices, and don't go rogue on them. Here's where you can help specifically, because don't coach your child from the sidelines. Make sure your child is listening to the coach. Coaches like it when kids listen to them and do what they ask. So these are just a little things. Focus on we, not me. Be a team player. The little things add up, and they will add up for your child. Even such things as putting in the extra work, whether it's after practice or apart from practice. I mean, Beth was just telling me a few moments ago that her husband is helping with kids with pitching lessons. Those kids are coming out at night apart from practice and putting in the extra time. And sometimes it's the little things like that add up that will make a difference for your child's playing time. My daughter used to stay after volleyball practice and ask her coach to hit balls at her so she could practice digging them out. And my son used to throw footballs to his receivers after practice. So sometimes just putting in that little extra work. So there's a whole list of 50 things that I put together in this resource that I'll share with you at the end. But basically there's 5 simple steps to success, and it's just one of these things that's so simple. Show up. Step 2, on time. Step 3, every day. Step 4, with a great attitude. And step 5, and do the right things consistently. So if your child shows up on time every day with a great attitude and does the right things consistently, their faithfulness will pay off sooner or later. It always does. So we found this video by the coach of the Maple Leaf hockey team. It's a professional hockey team. Coach Mike Babcock shares some what his philosophy is on earning success. And listen closely and listen to what he has to say, because it's good stuff.
Who gives you confidence?
Not me.
Who gives you confidence?
My own performance.
You earn your confidence, right? That's what you do. So when you do a good job every day, and to me, it's real simple for me. You put in the work, you do the preparation, and then when you get to the exam, you're not in panic mode because you did all the preparation, you feel good about yourself. So keep doing the work. Don't get soft between your ears and battle. But you earn your confidence. Nobody gives it to you. You earn it. Same for the Maple Leafs, same for Mike Babcock, same for you.
Awesome. So those are the 2 keys that I have, and now we're going to move into key 3, and Beth is going to share that with us.
Oh my goodness, Janice. Thank you so much for those first 2 keys. Wow. I'm seriously jotting down all sorts of notes here. Those last 5 things that you said, shows up on time every day with the right attitude. It is the little things that make a difference. And that's so powerful when you give your athlete those things that they can do, those small things that can empower them. So thank you so much for sharing those 2 keys with us. That was just awesome. And so I'm going to take us into the 3rd key to feeling good about your athlete's playing time. And it's matching expectations and where to start. And what do I mean about matching expectations? What does that mean? Well, what I've discovered, both from being an athlete and now from raising little athletes, is often that tension arises when our expectations of what we envision for our athlete and what our athletes' expectations are off, that they don't match. So, for instance, with my daughter, who is my dancer, if her expectations for dance are just to move her body and to get some exercise and express herself creatively and spend time with her friends, no matter what potential I see in her, it doesn't make sense for me to push her to join the competitive team, to sign up for a bunch of classes all week, keep herself in dance all the time, even though I may see this incredible potential for her, because our expectations are completely different, right? And so it's not going to be good for her. There's going to be tension there. And that's in any relationship, not just your relationship with your athlete, but in all relationships. Oftentimes the tension arises when our expectations are different. So I found this wonderful exercise by Bruce Brown in a little pamphlet called The Role of Parents in Athletics, which I think is a super powerful just a super powerful thing that we can do with our athletes. So basically, as the season begins, you are encouraged to do this separately from your athletes. So you do this and fill out, answer these questions, and your athlete does this separately. So ask yourself, write down, do I want them to play? If so, why? What will be a successful season for me as a parent? You can imagine that may or may not match what your athlete is feeling or what their successful season looks like. What are my goals for them? What do I hope they gain from the experience? And what do I think their role will be on the team? So I'm encouraging you to, just get out a piece of paper, write down the answers to these things, and then ask your son or daughter the following questions separate from you. Why are you playing? What is a successful season? What goals do you have? And what do you think your role will be on the team? And then you can come together, and if your expectations match, great, you guys have this great foundation to go from, right? But if your expectations don't match, if your goals don't match, and here's what's an interesting piece, I think, for us sports parents, is that Coach Brown suggests that you, as a sports parent, let go of your expectations because that's often where the tension comes in. So we have to honor and meet our athletes and goals and desires where they are. This really speaks to what Janice was saying about this is their journey, not ours. And so we really have to, even though we see incredible potential in our athletes, in our children, which we all do, and we all want them to be successful in what they do, we have to really let go of our expectations and meet our athletes where they are. Because like Jenna said, it's their journey. So I would really encourage you. This is just a practical exercise that I think you can sit down and you can do with your athlete. You could even do this in the middle of a season if there's changes in expectations or changes in where they are in the season. You could sit down and do this in the middle of a season. But I think it's a powerful thing to do at the beginning of each season with your athlete, so that you have a place to start and to talk to your athlete and kind of be on the same page. And we are getting close to the end of our time. And like I said, we're going to honor your time tonight. And so we want to wrap up with some resources. As Janice said, we have some resources for you and a question and answer. So I'm going to, Janice, I'm going to turn it over to you real quick so that you can share your resource.
Yeah, this is just a free ebook. Is Your Child in a Bench Battle? And if your young athlete is struggling to get playing time or is struggling for a certain position, this is just giving you 50 tips to help your child battle off the bench. And basically it just boils down to the fact that there's just not one thing your child can do to win the battle for playing time. There are lots of them. So just go to jbmthinks.com/positive and you can get that free ebook there.
Thanks, Janice. And then another resource that I'd like to introduce you to is Sports Moms United, which is a Facebook community of over 1,000 sports moms who are getting connected, supported, and united. It's a place where you can share your concerns, your questions, and you have a place where other sports moms, our veteran sports moms, are there to answer questions. We have great resources. Janice is one of the great resources in the community, answering questions so that you feel connected, supported, and united in your journey wherever you are as a sports mom. So join us there. We're going to take a few minutes to answer any questions or concerns you guys might have, and then we will wrap it up.
Well, here's a question from, I think that a lot of parents ask, Beth, and that is, what would you say to a mom whose child is feels that the coach has turned them against sports? In other words, taken away their love for the game. How would you answer that question?
Well, that's a great question, Janice. And I think that came up in one of the questions in the Facebook group just recently. And I actually think that the exercise that we just did is a great place to start, even if it's in the middle of the season, or even if in a situation like this, that they can take the opportunity to, I mean, it is what it is. The situation is what it is. And so they can take the opportunity as a parent and as an athlete to look at the situation as it is and maybe realign or readjust some goals so that they can finish out the season, wherever they are in the season, with strength and with a positive experience. How about you? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I've been in that situation where my child almost quit the sport because they felt the coach took their love away of the game because for one reason or another, you know, who knows exactly why, but and we always told them that, you know, you're not playing for the coach, really. You're not playing for to please him, because sometimes there's coaches where you just it's hard to do. They're hard to please, and you know that's not the goal. We encouraged our kids to play for their teammates. We encouraged them to play for their own personal achievement, and we encouraged our kids to play for something higher than themselves. And for our family, it was to please God. So, you know, whatever your family, you know, whatever you look at as something higher, that was how we did it. So we would say, you know, you're not playing to please your coach. So, you know, the season's going to end and your love for the game is still going to go on. So you'll have another coach. And so don't let this coach take that from you. And so, yeah, we had a few of those seasons.
Yeah, as an athlete, I had a few of those seasons, and I had to do the same thing. I had to readjust to where I was in that season and think through why was I playing? Was it because I love the sport, or was I playing to perform or to please somebody? And when I reassessed where I was as an athlete, this is when I was older, but when I reassessed where I was as an athlete, I did realize that I was playing more for somebody else to please and to perform. And I had lost sort of that sense of the love of the game. And when I did kind of reassess and sit back and say, okay, I need to find why I'm playing, and that it is for a higher purpose. And I feel the same way you did about that. It made all the difference in the world. And I was able to finish that season strong.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say, Beth, to a child who came home complaining that they wanted to quit in the middle of the season? Would you let your kids do that?
This is a completely personal opinion, of course, but I believe very strongly in finishing what you start. Unless it's some sort of situation where there's an abuse or something like that, then I think that's the exception. But I really feel like our job is to help our athletes, help our children find the positive part of that experience, and then work to achieve that. We're always going to be in circumstances throughout our entire life that we don't like. It's the circumstances that we don't want to focus on the circumstances. Let me put it that way. I want to help my child focus on what they can do in the circumstances instead of the circumstances themselves. And so I would help. I feel like my role would be to help them sort of manage that in terms of their own role, like what they can do to get through those circumstances without letting the circumstances run them. What about you?
Yeah, well, in our household there was a phrase, Merediths don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
So actually they started preaching that to each other when they came on hard times. They'd look at each other and say, Merediths don't quit.
I love that. I really love that, because that puts that in their unconscious mind. And it's something that they carry throughout life, not just in their sports, but throughout life.
They still say it sometimes, they still say, Merediths don't quit. But, I say there is exceptions to rules. And I think that when my daughter was a senior, she was playing 3 different sports in her senior year. And the sport that she wanted to focus on and to play in college was volleyball. So she played volleyball, and then basketball season came, and she had played all through growing up. And so she wanted to finish strong and play her senior year. She started her senior season, and it just was not going well. And she was about ready to quit. And we sat down and we said, look, we understand as a senior that if you want to, this is not the sport you're going to play in college. If you want to quit and focus on volleyball and, get a job and start looking ahead to the future, we will support you, And the funny thing was she came back and said, no, I don't want to quit. Mm-hmm. She said, I'm here for a reason. And then she said, and because my daughter was always the one that led the team in prayer, that was just like her job. She said, Mom, who's going to pray with the team if I'm not there?
I love that.
So I said, okay, this is your decision. And she stuck it out and finished the year strong. So Although we would have let her quit
Right.
just because of that, or I'd say also another thing would be if your child is in a season ending injury,
Mhm.
and they can't, and it's going to practices. I mean, they can do it, but it's like, what's the point, if they're out for the season? That would be another thing. They're not really quitting. That got forced on them,
But the thing I think is really important about your point there, Janice, is that the communication that you had with your daughter, that she knew that you were supporting her where she was, you were honoring and meeting her where she was in her journey.
mm-hmm.
I think that's really important that you guys had that communication. And that didn't happen, I'm sure, just that season. You set that groundwork when they were younger, I'm sure. So that's a really cool thing that happened, and a really great point, I think, for all of us as sports parents. It doesn't happen just in one season, or it doesn't just happen. It happens when you lay that groundwork continually.
Someone once said to me to listen to your kids when they're little, and they'll keep talking when they grow up.
Ah, brilliant. Yes.
So listen real hard when they're young,
Mm-hmm.
and hear what they're saying, and ask them questions, and hopefully they'll keep talking. So,
And I think that's sometimes counterintuitive because we feel like, we've got to control and tell them and guide them, and instead of thinking, we really got to listen. So that's a great point. I'm writing that one down right now. So, all right. Well, we should wrap up because I think we're right at time now. And I appreciate all of your great points tonight, Janice, and I look forward to doing some more of these wonderful workshops with you.
Well, awesome, Beth. It was fun being here, and just so excited to be able to work with you and share our common passion for helping youth sports be a positive experience for parents and kids.
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.